Hello, my name is Corey Arnouts, and today I'll be talking about our Data 620 final project for me and my partner Jimmy. He's already talked about some of the text mining that he did of sentiment analysis of Twitter data around stocks. We're looking at the S&P 500 and looking at both sentiment analysis, NLP, and network analysis with the stocks data. So he brought in a bunch of Twitter data, a bunch of tweets about the various stocks, and then came up with metrics around the overall sentiment around these stocks based off of these tweets, and then also organized it by sector. Um, and then I expanded on some of his work a little bit, just creating a data set that looks at, and this is just looking at the month of December because that's what the Twitter API allowed him to pull. But then I also looked at the overall, came up with the overall sentiment, either neutral, positive, or negative for each stock symbol in the month of December, and that I used that a little bit in my analysis. So for my analysis, first I'm doing some network analysis of the S&P 500, all of 2020. So here what I do is I look at the stocks for 2020, and these are ones that have at least, I believe, 60 days they fluctuated in the same way. So stocks that move together in the same day at least 60 times get an edge between each other. So each one of these edges between all these nodes are different stocks, and each edge represents that these two assets or these two stocks move together either up or down 3% or more within the same day, and they did that 60 days. And I think there's roughly been like 220-ish trading days. And so these are stocks that commonly move together, either up or down together. And so we can start to see some of these patterns. Initially you see a lot of these energy stocks are all listed here together. Diamondback Energy, Petroleum, Valero Energy, a lot of these energy stocks. And then there's also quite a few of these financial services companies that move together as well. Prudential, Fifth Third, Huntington, MetLife, a lot of these different places, financial companies. Lincoln National being a big one here in the middle. And then also, I think this is probably the most interesting part of this network. I'd call this like the COVID impacted part. So these are all companies I think that really have been affected by the COVID pandemic. Essentially, a lot of these different companies, we have airlines in here: American Airlines, Alaska Airlines, Delta Airlines. We have a lot of hotels and cruise lines: Royal Caribbean, Marriott, Expedia, a travel company, hosts hotels. We have Live Nation Entertainment, which they do a lot of entertainment on cruise lines, so that makes sense. You have Las Vegas Sands, Wynn Resorts, Southwest Airlines, and then a big one here, you have Boeing Company, which is actually a company that makes the Boeing airplanes. So all the airplanes, so these are all this is connected to a lot of the airlines as well. You see this aerospace company here, kind of a similar type of thing, makes airplanes. And then you also see the Simon Property Group here, and they're actually one of the largest owners of malls. So kind of malls have gone through the same kind of disruption period during the COVID pandemic where a lot of people just aren't going to malls, just like they aren't using cruise lines, just like they aren't using airlines, just like they aren't staying at hotels. So you can see, United Airlines here, Cruise Line here, Carnival's over here. You see some of these consumer good companies as well that struggled a bit. So you can really see the pattern. This part of the network really affected by kind of the COVID pandemic. A few different types of companies. Consumer goods, airlines, hotels, that sort of thing, cruise lines. So I think that's really interesting stuff to see those. And then you have, more stuff divided up by two major sectors of finance and energy. And then I also do an analysis just looking at the December data. And there's only 10 trading days in December. But then I do this analysis, and actually in this analysis, I actually took those sentiment scores and colored each one of the nodes not by the sector like I had done before, but rather by the overall sentiment. So yellow here is positive sentiment on Twitter during the month. Red is a negative sentiment on Twitter during the month, and here's Twitter with a neutral Twitter sentiment. So I think this is kind of an interesting view as well. I think the hypothesis here is to see, all right, are stocks that fluctuate together, do they have similar sentiment on Twitter? Are all the positive stocks moving together? All the negative stocks moving together? Are all the neutral stocks, kind of located on the same part of the network? And as you can see, there's not a ton that have like an overall neutral sort of sentiment around them. You see a few out here. There might be like 4 or 5 overall, but they're kind of on the fringe of the network. And then you see a lot of these are, a lot of the positive stocks are moving together. Like over here, we have more of the neutral types of stocks according to their sentiment analysis that are moving together. I think definitely some interesting stuff here, some interesting, different patterns. You can kind of see different areas of the network and the type of sentiment that they have around them, according to kind of public opinion or Twitter itself. So I thought that was kind of an interesting view of the network. And then I also do December stock analysis group by the sector. And this one's still running. Oh, let me run this here. Okay, and so here I did one stocks that had at least two fluctuations in the same way, either up or down in the month of December, and then did it by sector, colored it by sector, kind of like I had done before. So in the middle here, you can kind of see a lot of these energy stocks are dominating it. You also see host hotels here in kind of the middle of the network. So a lot of stuff that's kind of affected by the pandemic, I think, especially with the emergence of the vaccine. Simon Property Group as well here. And then I think an interesting part of this is you actually also see Pfizer out here on the network, the company that obviously came up with the vaccine, and they're connected to a few of these companies as well, meaning potentially a lot of the same people that are buying Pfizer are buying some of these other companies, probably because they feel pretty bullish about those companies reemerging after this pandemic hopefully is coming to an end, and then also buying stock in Pfizer itself as well. So I think that's kind of some definitely interesting patterns there within the network as well. And then hopefully this last one's running. And then for this last one, I'm going to show you a network around lagging stock indicators. So essentially, the concept around this one was to look at stocks not that necessarily move in the same direction during the exact same day, but stocks who are either lagging or leading indicators for each other. So one stock goes up and then on another day, a different stock goes up, kind of like potentially in a causal pattern type of thing. And so here I filter to things that happen a lot, so at least 80 occurrences of one stock going up or down and then a different stock kind of following suit. And so we can start to look at these. Here we see it'll either say not have a leading suffix or prefix, or it will. So like here we see Coty Inc. is a leading indicator for a Norwegian cruise line. PVH is a leading indicator for a Norwegian cruise line. Technip, United Airlines Holdings, Royal Caribbean Group, American Airlines, DXC Technology, and then also Lincoln National. And these are all kind of leading indicators for Norwegian Cruise Lines as well, and Carnival Group is as well. And then over here you can kind of see some of the other ones. So like over here we have Norwegian Cruise Lines actually is a leading indicator, and it's actually a leading indicator for a lot of these same stocks. Like if we look at it, it's almost a really sort of a symmetrical sort of looking graph in reality. And so this was a little bit anticlimactic, I mean, in a way, because I think what's essentially happening is stocks that are moving together for potentially a period of time. So, they're going up or down together maybe for a few days or even a week or something like that. And that's why they're all kind of leading and lagging indicators for one another, vice versa, either way. So, I mean, I think there's still interesting insights to be had here. I think it'd be interesting to build potentially a predictive model based off of trying to predict maybe, let's say, Norwegian Cruise Lines, their stock movement one day based off of the indicators of the previous day, or you could go multiple days in the past even, of some of these different ones, some of these different stocks that have proven to kind of be leading indicators for Norwegian Cruise Lines. So, in the past, the day before you'll probably look at how Norwegian Cruise Lines did, but also how did United Airlines Holdings do? How did Royal Caribbean Group do? How did American Airlines do? Kind of all these different indicators, and that could, potentially add, some more generalizability, some more credibility potentially to the models that you're creating if you're trying to predict potentially stock prices of one of these assets. So, like I said, that is kind of the stock-based analysis, looking at both the entire year and then also just the month of December, and then also bringing in some kind of sentiment analysis data to see if stocks with similar sentiments on Twitter move together. But yeah, thank you for your time, and that's the presentation.